Welcome to the section of BD Playbook on relationship building. Now, we just talked a whole lot on conversational continuity. Well, guess what the best strategy for conversation continuity is when you're in the deal funnel? Building strong personal relationships. Surprise, surprise, people are more likely to respond and keep open dialogues with people that they're friends with. So let's talk about some ways to build relationships with prospects. At the core, it's about adding value to their life or making it better. And this is why you want to do it early and often. You also want to add value to your prospect or partner's life throughout multiple facets of the relationship. So in the business context, as well as their personal life, if you can. Now, I want to talk a little bit about something called the law of reciprocity. And this kind of demonstrates and explains why adding value is so important. The law of reciprocity states, when you do something beneficial for somebody else, they feel an inclination to reciprocate. And this comes from the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. So you can imagine that as you do beneficial things for people by adding value, they just feel a stronger urge and desire to do nice things for you, or even just to act in a way that is beneficial to the relationship. So doing things like responding when you email them, calling you back. Again, all positive things for conversational continuity. So what are some ways to add value? Number one, make relevant introductions. So when you see two people who would benefit from knowing each other, connect them. Generally should always strive to be connecting people who would benefit from knowing each other. It's just a good thing to do, and a lot of times, a lot of the good karma that comes from those connections is given back to you. Another way to provide value is support them. So when good things happen to them or their company, be incredibly encouraging and supportive. Do things like send congratulatory emails. This not only demonstrates your support, but your attentiveness to the relationship as well. And this is the sign of a good prospective or current partner. Some of my favorite ways to stay on top of support opportunities are things like industry newsletters, publications, and company blogs. And I use an RSS reader like Feedly to stay on top of this content. I also use a great tool called Newsly. If you're not familiar with Newsly, basically it scans all of the news publications out there and connects with your LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter to tell you when your connections on those social networks are mentioned in the news. So anytime anything really awesome happens to them and they're mentioned in the news, you just get an email with a link to that article, which is just incredibly helpful for identifying these opportunities. Another one of my favorites is job change alerts. Job change alerts is a service that sits on top of LinkedIn, and anytime somebody changes their job title or position, you get emailed and are notified of this instance. And a lot of times what happens is that people's, not only when they change companies, but when they get promoted within their company, this information is surfaced in a job change alert. So when somebody gets promoted, it's just a great thing to send them an email and say, hey, congratulations, just saw the news about the promotion via LinkedIn. That's really awesome. I hope you have a great day. Lastly, another one of my favorite ways is Google Alerts. And Google Alerts are more ideal for company news. So if you just want to make sure that you stay on top of the news about one partner, a very simple thing you can do is just add a Google Alert with a search query for the company name, and once a day just receive 3 to 4 instances of news created about that company if it exists. This can be a lot to manage with partners that are in the news frequently, but for smaller, lesser known partners, this is just an excellent way to make sure that you're always current on what is going on with that company and you can identify those support opportunities. Another way to add value to a prospect or partner's life to strengthen that relationship is send them relevant content or news. So what are some ways to identify this? Well, basically, I do this in much the same way that I stay on top of support opportunities, just by using things like an RSS reader, Google Alerts, and even Twitter. And anytime I come across an article that I find that a partner might enjoy, I just send them an email with something that says something like, hey, I just came across this article and I thought you might find it interesting. I had no idea that a specific article insight was so important. Now, I want to bring up a few things that I did here in this email. Number one, I didn't sell or ask for anything, even though I might be in the middle of the deal funnel. Again, the goal of these type of emails is to build rapport. It's not to sell anything directly. A great relationship is often the best closing tactic, again, because people do things for people they like. In addition, if you notice that second sentence about how I brought up a specific point, a lot of people out there just carpet bomb articles to prospects. And this just comes off as shallow. It doesn't come off as genuine, and it's not great for rapport building. So I always try to actually read the article and highlight a specific point that I think that they would find interesting so that it just feels a little bit more personal, which again is just congruent with the whole idea of building a relationship and adding value to them. Another way to add value is address direct needs. So the internet is just full of places where people are explicitly stating things that they need help with. So they might be hiring, and if you could find them somebody to fill a crucial role at their company, that is a huge way to add value. And this is as simple as literally just navigating over to the careers page. A lot of times people voice their needs on Twitter. This is just an example of that, where my friend Brittany was asking if anybody had any leads at Alinea. She wanted to get a table, and here's just a bunch of different people asking for things. Charlie O'Donnell asking for softball subs. Somebody wants to get one of these birdhouses. These are all instances where your prospect could be asking for something that you can directly go and find and or help with just by monitoring them on Twitter. And a great thing to do to isolate these opportunities is to create a list of all your prospects, and then on TweetDeck you can actually search that list using a question mark filter. So that just identifies all the instances where people are asking questions, which are often the opportunities where you can get in there and help. Another way to add value that a lot of people forget is providing help around non-work related things. Guess what? People have lives outside of deals. So when you get to know their interests, lifestyle, and situation, you're going to be able to see opportunities to be helpful or to add value. So an example would be if they're indicating they're going on a weekend trip to a city you're familiar with. Send them the best restaurants or sites to see, and don't even bring up the deal. These type of activities can be incredibly valuable for building that relationship with a potential or current partner. So just one more time, ways to add value to build relationships. Relevant introductions, support, relevant content and news, addressing direct needs, and non-work related help. All great ways to add value to your prospect and build a relationship with them so that you're more likely to have open dialogues, get deals done, and just have a more fruitful relationship with the people in your work life. Eventually, when you start to add value, your goal is to then develop that into a friendship. And a way to develop a friendship is basically just to connect on something beyond just the deal. And this can even be on just, a similar sense of humor. It doesn't have to be on a particular interest. But what you want to do is just take an active interest in learning about what their interests are and see if there's anything mutual that you really bond over. And when you see that, try to get FaceTime and get in front of that person around that particular interest. So if they're a huge hockey fan and you are as well, go to a hockey game. Let's say they just love drinking beer. Go get some beer with that person. There's just a ton of things that you can do when you intentionally seek out what these people are interested in and different ways that you can bond over them. And, I bring up the FaceTime because at the end of the day, you can have as many calls as you want, but until you're seated across from somebody, there's nothing quite like that experience in the relationship building process. You can interact with them on a deeper level because you can see their body language. You get to know what the face is like behind the voice. Any of these activities listed here, whether it's an office meeting, dinner or drinks, or again, inviting them to a shared interest activity like a sporting event, concert, or some type of outdoor activity like golf, checking out cars, whatever it is, are just great opportunities to get that face-to-face, which is crucial for the relationship building. Now, a huge ingredient to the relationship building formula is consistency. And this is both relevant in the adding value portion of it, as well as the doing things like friendly activities to really kindle a strong friendship. The idea is to continue to create positive experiences by adding value, which just develops things like comfort and rapport. If you do something nice for somebody one time, it's doing something nice for somebody one time. But the friendship is really built around just consistently adding value to that person, having your name come up over and over again and being associated with a positive experience. That's where you develop comfort. That's where you develop rapport, and that's how you make somebody your friend. So one way to make sure to inject that consistency is just by sending emails. So you can send relevant pings on personal interests and do it frequently. So one thing I like to do is send people YouTube videos. So if somebody was a fan of an iPhone 6, I might say, hey, I just saw this awesome YouTube video of the new iPhone 6. It looks amazing. I figured a fellow Apple fanboy might enjoy taking a gander. I'm sending somebody an email just around something they're interested in once every 2 weeks. This can really add up and, again, take you from prospect who they're dealing with at a company to friend. Another thing you can do is just get on the phone frequently. So calls don't need to be limited where there's a direct business purpose. A call simply to warm the relationship up is an excellent use of time. Because, again, people do things for people they like. Now, the way to broach this is pretty simple. Just to do a regular personal catch-up call. Send an email that says, hey, I want to see if you had some time to catch up for 15 minutes next week. Lots of exciting stuff going on here, including some type of reference to their personal interest. It's that simple. And again, you should make it a practice to have calls not just related to business things with prospects that you want to build relationships with. Lastly, if you can have consistent in-person meetings, that is only going to help your cause for the reasons that we described in previous slides.